The Queen's Birthday Honours 1974 appointments in many of the Commonwealth realms of Queen Elizabeth II to various orders and honours to reward and highlight good works by citizens of those countries. They were published on the 7th of June 1974 for the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Mauritius, Fiji, the Bahamas, and Grenada. The recipients of honours are displayed here as they were styled before the new honour and arranged by honour, with classes and then divisions as appropriate. At this time honours for Australians were still being awarded in the UK honours on the advice of the premiers of Australian states. The Australian honours system began with the 1975 Queen's Birthday Honours. United Kingdom. Life Peers. Baroness the Right Honourable Margaret Rosalind Baroness Delacourt Smith, widow of the Right Honourable Lord Delacourt Smith, formerly Councillor of the Royal Borough of New Windsor and a Justice of the Peace. Baron Sir William Pick and Alexander, Secretary, Association of Education Committees. Alfred Walter Henry Allen, CBE, Chairman, Trades Union Congress. Professor Nicholas Caldor F.B.A., Professor of Economics, University of Cambridge. Formerly Special Advisor, now Consultant on Tax Matters to the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Sir John Frederick Wolfenden, C.B.E., formerly Chairman, University Grants Committee and Director, British Museum. Privy Councillor the Right Honourable Sir Robert Lynd Erskine Lowry, Lord Chief Justice of Northern Ireland. The Honourable Sir John Pennycuick, Vice-Chancellor of the Chancery Division of the High Court of Justice. Knight Bachelor William Ferguson Anderson, O.B.E. David Cargill, Professor of Geriatric Medicine, University of Glasgow. Lennox Randall Berkeley, C.B.E. Composer. William Peter Bulmer, Managing Director, Bulmer and Lum Limited. For services to export. Eric John Callard, Chairman, Imperial Chemical Industries Limited. For services to export. Clement Clapton Chesterman, O.B.E. For services to medicine overseas. Professor Stanley George Clayton, President, Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. John Rupert Colville, C.B.C. VO for services to Churchill College. Bernard Delfont, for charitable services. Martin Llewellyn Edwards, D.L., President, The Law Society. David Ernest Thomas Floyd U.N.M., VOO, B.E., Registrar and Receiver of St. Paul's Cathedral. Derek Ezra, M.B.E., Chairman, National Coal Board. Eric Oden Faulkner, M.B.E., Chairman, Lloyds Bank Limited. William Stevenson Gray, Lord Provost of Glasgow. John Capel Hanbury, C.B.E., Chairman, Central Health Services Council. Francis Alexander Lyle Harrison, M.B.E., QC.D.L. for Public Services in Northern Ireland. Stanley Holmes, D.L., Chief Executive Merseyside County Council. Andrew Fielding Huxley, F.R.S. Royal Society Research Professor, University College, London. Emmanuel K. C.B.E., Founder and Chairman, Lancing Bagnall Limited. For services to export. His Honour Judge Dermot St. Oswald McKee, Circuit Judge. Edward Lancelot Malaluz, QC, lately First Deputy Chairman of Ways and Means. For services to Parliament. Arthur Gregory George Marshall, O.B.E., D.L. Chairman and Managing Director, Marshall of Cambridge Limited. Walter Edmund Parker, C.B.E., lately Senior Partner, Price Waterhouse and Company. For public services. Walter Lane MacDonald Perry, O.B.E.F., RSE Vice-Chancellor, The Open University. Melvin Wynne Rosso, Chairman of the Welsh Council. Arthur South, Member and Leader, Norwich City Council. Ira Marcus Simmons, I.SOMBE, Governor, St. Lucia. Richard William Southern, F.B.A. for services to medieval history. Patrick Muirhead Thomas D. SOTD, Chairman, Scottish Transport Group. Brigadier Philip John Denton 2 BED, SOTD, DL for Public Services. Dennis Hay Wilkinson F.R.S., Professor of Experimental Physics, University of Oxford. Australian States, State of New South Wales. Herman David Black, Chancellor of Sydney University. Frederick Walter Sutton OBE for Services to Philanthropy and the Community. State of Victoria. Jonathan Reed CMG of Q for Services to the Community and to the Arts. Harold Frederick Stokes CBE of Toorak for dedicated services to the Austin Hospital and other community activities. State of Queensland. Charles Newton Barton OBED, Coordinator General. Andrew Bruce Small M.L.A. of Surfers Paradise for services to the welfare of the Gold Coast and the community generally. The Honourable Mr. Justice Charles Gray Wanstall, Senior Queen Judge of the Supreme Court of Queensland. State of Western Australia. The Honourable Crawford David Nalder of Applecross for services to the state and in local government. Order of the Bath Knight Grand Cross of the Order of the Bath Sir Anthony Alexander Part K. CBM, BE, Permanent Secretary, Department of Industry. Knight Commander of the Order of the Bath Vice Admiral Arthur Mackenzie Power, M.B.E. Lieutenant General Patrick John Howard Dobson, C.B. Late Royal Armoured Corps Colonel the Queen's Own Hussars, Air Marshal Beresford Peter Torrington Horsley, C.B.E.M. VOA, F.C. Royal Air Force. Air Marshal Douglas Charles Lowe, CBD, FCA, FC, Royal Air Force. Frank Cooper, CMG, Permanent Secretary, Northern Ireland Office. Conrad Frederick Herron, CBO, BE, Permanent Secretary, Department of Employment. Derek Jack Mitchell, CBC, VO, Second Permanent Secretary, HM Treasury. John Martindale Wilson, CB, Second Permanent Under Secretary of State, Ministry of Defence. Companion of the Order of the Bath Military Division. Rear Admiral Lionel Dorian Dimmick. Rear Admiral Hubert Walter Elphinstone Hollands. Rear Admiral Jack Rowbottom Llewellyn. Rear Admiral William David Stewart Scott. Rear Admiral Derek Garland Spickenal. Major General Ronald John Dennis Eden Buckland, M.B.E. Late Foot Guards. Major General Glyn Charles Anglam Gilbert, M.C. Late Infantry. Major General James Herbert Samuel Madgery, M.B.E. Late Infantry, now ARO. Colonel Commandant King's Division, Colonel the Royal Irish Rangers 83rd and 87th. Major General Charles Edward Page, M.B.E. Late Royal Corps of Signals, now ARO. Colonel Commandant Royal Corps of Signals. Major General James Maxwell Sawyers, M.B.E. Late Royal Corps of Signals. Air Vice Marshal Geoffrey Harold Ford, Royal Air Force. Air Vice Marshal Philip Jacobus Lagerson, D. FCA, FC, Royal Air Force. Air Vice Marshal Ronald James Arthur Morris, Q. HS, Royal Air Force. Acting Air Vice Marshal Howard George Cadwallader, Royal Air Force. Air Commandant Barbara Mary Duckett Amos, RCQ, HNS, Princess Mary's Royal Air Force Nursing Service. Civil Division Edward Armitage, Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks, Department of Trade. Frederick Dennis Bedard, Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Department of Health and Social Security. Keith Brading, MBE, Chief Registrar of Friendly Societies and Industrial Assurance Commissioner. Brian Crossland-Cubbon, Deputy Secretary, Cabinet Office. Norman Dugdale, Permanent Secretary, Department of Health and Social Services, Northern Ireland. Howell Ivion Evans, Under-Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food. Trevor Poulton Hughes, Deputy Secretary, Department of the Environment. Kenneth Ernest Lefevre, Commissioner and Chief Inspector, Board of Customs and Excise. John Michael Moore, D.Sc., Deputy Secretary, Civil Service Department. William Henry Nichols, Secretary, Exchequer and Audit Department. Thomas George Odling, Clerk of Committees, House of Commons. George Payne, D.Sc., Director of the Office of Population Censuses and Surveys and Registrar General of England and Wales. Clifford James Pearce, Under-Secretary, Department of the Environment. Charles Barry Shaw, Q.C., Director of Public Prosecutions for Northern Ireland. James Ian Smith, Secretary, Department of Agriculture and Fisheries for Scotland. David Richard Thompson, Registrar of Criminal Appeals and Master of the Crown Office. Order of St. Michael and St. George. Knight Grand Cross of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. Sir Patrick Francis Hancock, K.C.M.G. H.M. Ambassador, Rome. Sir Edward Hayward Peck, K.C.M.G. United Kingdom Permanent Representative on the North Atlantic Council. Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. Frederick John Llewellyn, Director General the British Council. Edward Cullen Vinogode, lately Secretary General, Intergovernmental Maritime Consultative Organisation. Sir Edwin Hartley Cameron Leather, Governor and Commander-in-Chief, Bermuda. William Bernard John Letwidge, C.M.G. H.M. Ambassador, Tel Aviv. Charles Martin Locane, C.M.G. British High Commissioner, Lagos. John Oliver Wright, C.M.G. D.Sc. Deputy Under-Secretary of State, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. Reginald Anderson, Assistant Under-Secretary of State, Ministry of Defense. Dennis Parsons Burkitt, F.R.S. Member, Medical Research Council, External Scientific Staff. Professor Arthur Geoffrey Dickens, F.B.A. Foreign Secretary, British Academy. For services to historical research. George Wicks Marshall, M.B.E.B.E.M., Commercial Counsel at H.M. Embassy, Copenhagen. William Nicol, Minister, Office of the United Kingdom Permanent Representative to the European Communities. Geoffrey Allen Crossley, H.M. Ambassador, Bogota. Christopher Ewart Diggins, British High Commissioner, Port of Spain. Albert Thomas Lamb, M.B.E.D. F.C. H.M. Ambassador Designate, Kuwait. Paul Henderson Scott, Senior Trade Commissioner and Head of Post, British Government Office, Montreal. Richard James Stratton, lately Political Advisor, Hong Kong. John Lang Taylor, lately Assistant Under-Secretary of State, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. John Allen Thompson, Consulate, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Willoughby Harry Thompson, C.B.E. Governor, Montserrat. Michael Scott Ware, Assistant Under-Secretary of State, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Australian States, State of New South Wales. The Honourable Eric Archibald Willis, M.L.A., Minister for Education. Charles Edward Winston, for services to medicine. State of Victoria. Professor Howard Hadfield Eddy, Professor of Surgery, University of Melbourne. State of Queensland. Edmund Rowlands Benny, of Brisbane, for services to the sugar industry. State of Western Australia. Ralph Herbert Doig, C.V.O.J.P., lately Chairman, Public Service Board. Royal Victorian Order. Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order Lieutenant Colonel John Mansell Miller, CVO.D. SOM. C. Charles Laws Strong, M.V.O. The Right Reverend Roger Plumpton Wilson, D.D. Commander of the Royal Victorian Order Miss Mary Goldie, M.V.O. Edmund Frank Grove, M.V.O. Major Sir Hugh Fleetwood Hamilton Dalrymple, B.T. Albert Montefiore Lake, M.V.O. B.E. Hugh Brown Mounsey, M.V.O. Leslie Alfred John Treby, M.V.O. M.B.E. M. The Very Reverend Henry Charles Whitley, member of the Royal Victorian Order. At this time the two lowest classes of the Royal Victorian Order were Member and Member, both with postnominals MVO. Member was renamed Lieutenant from the 1985 New Year Honours onwards. 4th Class Alexander William Allen, Captain Charles Barry George Baker Irish Guards, Commander Hugh Maxwell Balfour Royal Navy, Squadron Leader Richard Felix Royal Air Force, Lady Mary Catherine Fitzalan Howard, Squadron Leader Ronald Montgomery Kerr A.F.C. Royal Air Force, John Llewellyn Powell O.B.E. Peter Christie Malden Shillito M.B.E. The Reverend Canon Rennie Simpson, 5th Class Sidney Burton Superintendent Norfolk Joint Police Force, James Davidson Dugwit, Miss Mary Albert Gilbert, Norman Stanley Good, Henry Reginald Hardy, George Richard Hart, Keith Howard, Alan Ross Thornton. Royal Victorian Medal Francis Alfred Alexander, Acting Flight Sergeant Michael John Coughlin Royal Air Force, Edward Duddigan, Harold Charles James Gray, M.B.E. Andrew Grubb, Albert Jones, Chief Petty Officer Wilfred James Loveridge, Arthur Montgomery, Alfred William Pither, James Ian Reed, Morris George Smith. Order of the British Empire Knight Grand Cross of the Order of the British Empire Sir Hugh Walter Kingwall Wantner, C.V.O. Lord Mayor of London. Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire Evelyn Joyce, Mrs. Dennington, C.B.E. Chairman, Stevenage Development Corporation. Barbara Lady Jackson, lately Professor of International Development, Columbia University, USA. Australian States, State of Victoria Ms. Joan Hood Hammond, C.M.G. C.B.E. of Geelong, for distinguished services to music. Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire Vice Admiral Edward Gerard Napier Mansfield, Major General Alexander James Wilson, C.B.E.M.C. Late Infantry, Colonel Commandant Queen's Division, Deputy Colonel the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, the Right Honourable Aylwin Edward, Baron de Ramsay, T.D. D.L. For services to agriculture, Sir Harry Greenfield, CSI, C.I.E. Lately President International Narcotics Control Board, Ralph Bruce Verney, D.L. For public services, Australian States, State of New South Wales the Honourable Sir Asher Alexander Joel, O.B.E. For services to the community. Order of the Companions of Honour David Jones, C.B.E. Artist. The Reverend Nathaniel Micklem, for services to theology, Papua New Guinea. Knight Bachelor Paul Lapoon, M.H.A. Minister for Mines, for long and distinguished services to politics and to the community in Papua New Guinea. Horace Lionel Richard Nowell, C.B.E. First Speaker of the House of Assembly, Papua New Guinea, from 1964 to 1968, for long and distinguished services to the development of Papua New Guinea. Order of the British Empire, Commander of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division TEI Abel, M.H.A. a former Under-Secretary for Labour and former Minister for Agriculture, Stock and Fisheries, for outstanding services to the people of Papua New Guinea in the fields of health and government. Officer of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division Vernon Guise, President Marimatana Local Government Council since 1964 and President, Local Government Association of Papua New Guinea. For services to local government and the community in Papua New Guinea. Soso Subi, Member, Coffee Marketing Board since 1967. For services to local government and economic development in Papua New Guinea. Frederick Bosky Tom, M.B.E., former President, New Hanover Council, former member, New Ireland District Council and former teacher. For services to education and the community in Papua New Guinea. The Most Reverend Dry. Louis Vangaki, Auxiliary Bishop to the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Port Moresby, for religious and community services to the people of Papua New Guinea. Member of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division Pinkwan Hui, member of various community associations, for services to the Chinese community in Papua New Guinea. Himop Kesa, hospital assistant in charge of the Wewak Town Clinic, for services in the field of health to the people of Papua New Guinea. Mrs. Lois Elizabeth Milius, Foundation member of the Port Moresby Community Development Group, for services to social development and urbanization in Papua New Guinea. Ronald Thomas Dalton Neville, M.H.A., member of the House of Assembly since 1964, member, Southern Highlands Area Authority, for services to the development of Papua New Guinea, in particular the Southern Highlands. Edwin Gerhard Schicke, missionary worker since 1941. For services to the people of Papua New Guinea in the fields of health and health education. Sun Ayukiok, government interpreter. For public service in Papua New Guinea since 1938. British Empire Middle Civil Division Tauboga, teaching service commissioner. For public service in Papua New Guinea. William George, member, Central District Advisory Board and trustee, Laloki Cooperative College, for services to the cooperative movement in Papua New Guinea. Wilfred Mwah, medical superintendent, Laloki Psychiatric Center, for public service in Papua New Guinea. Joseph Nombri, Associate District Commissioner, Southern Highlands District, for public service in Papua New Guinea. Sergeant Kanung and Wakalin, Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary, for public service in Papua New Guinea since 1939.